Hey, I'm Vicky and I'm going to be sharing with you some top tips for choosing the perfect baby name for your little one. Over on my parenting website, I share lots of lists of different types of baby names to try and give parents inspiration for what to call their babies. I'm an absolute baby name addict. I've got kind of shiny object syndrome when it comes to baby names, always seeing ones that I absolutely love. So I thought that I would share in this video my tips for choosing the perfect baby name. If you are looking for baby name ideas, then head over to my website, which I'll link in the description below, and you can check out all my baby name lists over there. So choosing your perfect baby name is one of the most exciting parts of pregnancy. However, it can also be quite a tricky process, particularly if you don't agree on favourite names, if you have different sort of types of names that you tend to lean towards, and also if family members are getting involved with the debate as well. That can kind of make it really, really tricky. But above all things, choosing a baby name should be fun, even if there is the odd disagreement along the way. So I'm going to talk you through some steps that you can take to help you choose the perfect baby name. So first of all, when is the time to start talking about baby names? So I would say from about 13 weeks onwards is a good time to start the discussions about what to name your baby. That's not to say you can't have any discussions about it before then, but I just think a lot of people like to wait until that 12-week scan is out the way. The risk of miscarriage is greatly reduced once you're out of the first trimester. That's the really, really risky period. And so from 13 weeks onwards, you kind of know that the pregnancy is progressing as expected, and this is a good time to start having that conversation. And then I would say by the third trimester is a good time to have your shortlists ready, and then ahead of your due date you want to have the front runner decided. Now, a lot of people go into the delivery room already with complete certainty about what the baby name is going to be, and that's fantastic. But if you do go into the delivery room still just wanting to see your baby before you definitively confirm between each other, yes, that's the name, that is absolutely fine. I think we took about 10 days after our kids were born to really decide, yeah, that's definitely going to be the name. And we'd already kind of decided during the pregnancy, we already knew all along, certainly with my first child who we named Jessica, we knew all along that was our favourite name, but it just took us a couple of weeks after she had been born just to really make that decision, because it just felt like such a momentous, big decision to make, naming someone. So it's okay to take that time if you need it. So when sitting down to consider your baby name, one of the first things that's a really good idea to think about is to decide how wide you want to cast your net. If you want to cast that net far and wide out to very, very uncommon, rarely used names, that's absolutely fine. If you feel that you're going to only gravitate towards, the top 100 most popular names, that's fine as well. It can just really, really help to think, when you think about names, do you love classic names that have stood the test of time, that are still in the top 100 baby names today, names that may have come back into fashion, say, those sort of classic traditional names that are popular now, or even modern names that are popular right now that are in that top 100? Are those the names that you gravitate towards, or do you want something that stands out a bit more, that is going to be extremely unique? How unique do you want it to be? It's quite a debate that a lot of parents have now, like the common versus uncommon. And I think what's really interesting these days is that I'm not even sure that uncommon names are actually that uncommon. It's actually now common to go for the uncommon choice, if that makes sense, because people are so much looking to, really make a statement with their baby's name. It's very much a trend to do that, so for example, we've got things like, celebrities naming babies, quite unusual things. So we had Molly May, the influencer, naming her baby Bambi, which obviously caused quite a lot of debate, but this is actually, like quite a common thing among parents now, to be looking for those names that are so rarely used that, they get people talking when they choose them. So it's a good starting point to consider, where do you stand on that kind of common versus uncommon debate? Are you just, looking for something very traditional, modern, popular, or are you looking for something that's a little bit different? And actually, once you know where you sit on that scale, you can find like compromises with your partner. So for example, say one of you is dead set on something that is a widely used name that, isn't too out there, but the other one actually wants something a bit different. What you could do is decide, well, what names do you like that are popular, and is there a version that is less commonly used that you could have instead? So for example, like the name Amelia is very, very popular, spelt with an A at the beginning, but there's also a variant on that Emilia starts with an E. So that's just one example of how you can reach compromises once you've decided, you know, what your boundaries are on what kind of names you prefer. The next step is to make a note of all names that you're drawn to. So write them all down and really open your eyes and your ears to names, because when you're thinking about baby names, they're everywhere. It's everywhere all the time. It's on the TV you watch, the movies you watch, the music that you listen to. It's all over the place. In the supermarket when you're overhearing conversations. So have a note on your phone, like either create like a document on your phone that you can add things to, or have a little notebook that you carry around with you, and write down the names that you're drawn to. Now, it doesn't matter if you're sort of, you know, 50% certain this definitely isn't going to be the name. If it piqued your interest enough, write it down, because there may be names that are similar to that you really love, or there may be a derivative of that name that you really, really love. So it's really important to just make a note of these names as and when you hear them, and then when you sit down to have discussions and compare notes with your partner, who should also be doing the same, writing down names they love, you may well that way find some common ground. Another really good way to pick a baby name is to get a book. So there are baby name lists all over the place online, and obviously, as I said, my website has lots of them, but sometimes it really, really helps to be able to, at your leisure, flick through a baby names book. So consider buying a baby names book that you can just sort of read through, that you can have a look at the meanings of the names as well, and do it at your leisure. You can mark the pages, you can circle names that you particularly love. And once you've started making your list of names that really appeal to you, you can start thinking about what trends appeal to you. So do these names have particular things in common? Like, are you really drawn to like boho baby names? Are you really drawn to whimsical baby names? Are you drawn to pop culture baby names? Are you drawn to the very classic, more traditional baby names? And then you can search within those trends to see if there's anything else that really, really stands out for you. And alongside, while you're doing this, it's a good idea to start thinking about your potential middle names. So for some parents, it's so easy to pick a middle name because they already know that they want to choose a middle name that kind of pays homage to like a loved one, a relative. A lot of people have family traditions that a middle name will be, say, like the grandparent's first name, or if there's a middle name in the family that's used quite commonly. So that decision could be really easy, or it could be a bit more challenging. So the middle name, a lot of people I think that the middle name has to sound like it sits perfectly next to the first name, and that's actually not the case. It's nice to have a first, middle and third name that do roll together a bit, but I don't think it should be a deal breaker for those names to not feel like they perfectly rhyme or anything like that. I think some people like to take inspiration from sentiment when it comes to the middle name. So say you've had quite a long struggle towards this pregnancy, say, you know, this is a much longed for child, you may want to reflect that in the middle name with things such as hope or faith, that kind of thing. I think the middle name is also an opportunity if you do seek out something a little bit more common for the first name, a little bit more widely used, a little bit more traditional. The middle name is an opportunity to kind of add that twist of quirk if you are looking for that, but you don't want to be too outlandish with the first name. So, you know, you can add sort of more modern, more unusual middle names to a traditional name just to kind of modernize it a bit and make it your own. And then the next step, I think it's really important to take a step back. Once you've got a list of names that you really like and you've zeroed in on the type of names that you're looking for, it can be really important to just take a step back and consider those names for a few weeks. You've got time ahead of the due date to just write those names down, have a look at them, think about how they sound, think about how they look. When it comes to discussing with other relatives what they think of the names, I think it's good to take opinions on board, but I think ultimately this is your baby and it needs to be down to you and your partner to decide. So it's nice to take other people's opinions on board, but do try to remember that ultimately this is your choice, this is your baby. So if you don't want to talk about it too much with other people, if you're finding that sort of is just piling on more stress to the discussions, then keep it just between the two of you for a while you kind of gather your thoughts and think about what names you're gravitating towards. Once you've managed to form a short list of say 3 to 5 names, and this task is much easier if by the 20-week scan you've decided to know the agenda, because you know then you've only got one gender to discuss. Of course you may really like unisex names, in which case regardless of the gender you've still only got one short list. But make a shortlist, boys' names, girls' names, unisex names, whatever it is, based on your circumstances, 3 to 5 names. Write them down, include your favourite middle names as well, and it can really help to write those on a piece of paper that you then stick on the fridge so that you can look at them every day. And I think looking at them every day and not endlessly talking in circles, but just taking a step back to look at them, think about them, that can really help you to decide, well, which ones am I really leaning towards? And then you can start to think, well, which is the front runner here? Which is the one that I prefer? And as part of that, consider the nicknames that these names that you really love could have. So you may not want your baby to have a particular nickname that's associated with the name that you prefer, but once they get to school, you don't have much control over that. Nicknames can just kind of emerge. So think about that, and also think about what the initials spell out when you write them down. You don't want some unfortunate word to pop up from your baby's initials. So try and cover all the bases in terms of stuff that is possibly going to be a real turn off for you. And when it comes to having just 2 names that you love that you need to pick between, how do you pick between the 2? I think this is one of those things where flipping a coin won't necessarily help you, because there probably is one name that you deep down do prefer, but you're finding it difficult to let go of the other name. So what can help is that you say, well, there's a name that we prefer, but this other name could be a name for another child. Or could we make the other name that we prefer the middle name? Can you somehow combine those 2 names? I think it's important to take a step back for a few days if it is really, really something that you're stuck on. It's okay to go into the delivery room with 2 favoured names. And just see which one you prefer for your baby once they are born. This is where you could get relatives involved in the discussion if you've got people that can be really helpful to you with their opinions. You could ask them what they think of your 2 final name choices. It's just really important, I think, to take your time and not allow it to spin out into a conflict of any kind, which can make things really difficult. And I think you find that once the baby has arrived, if you are truly torn between 2 names, that actually meeting your baby can really solidify your decision. I hope you found this video useful and that you got lots of ideas for how to choose your baby's name. Check out my website for tons of baby name inspiration. I've left the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.